The WordPress salts are a series of encryption codes that keep the administrator account and dashboard area secure. In this video, you'll learn how to add these security codes to the WP config file, and you'll also find and install 4 plugins that we'll be using to customize the brochure site for the client. Let's get started. As you'll remember, to set up this WordPress installation, we went into the MAMP area, opened up the database and created a new database. And we also had to customize the WP-config file in order to attach the website installation to the database. If you've got your SiteGround manually installed site open, you can go to the cPanel and use the File Manager to look at the WP config file. When that opens, you can see that I have the core installation files here, and then of course the brochure site installation files up here inside of the brochure site folder. Let's just open the WP config file right here in the auto-installed WordPress installation. I'll click Code Editor and hit Edit. That opens the WP config file inside my code editor here. And down below the database information, you can see that the authentication, unique keys, and salts are right down here. The auto installer has taken care of using specific salts that it got from the WordPress site automatically. If we go back, I'll just close that. In the file manager, I'll open up brochure site, and let's take a look at our manually installed wp-config.php file in the code editor. This is the same thing as looking at it in our text editor like Atom. If I scroll down a little bit, you can see that it just has a blank statement. Put your unique phrase here. So, like in our local environment, we can do the same thing inside the code editor here. I'll hit Control-C to copy that URL. And I'll go up in a new tab in my browser, paste it into there, and now it's loading me up a nice, fresh set of keys. I hit Control-C to copy that, and back into the document and code editor, I'll select again that whole block and hit Control-V to copy. Great, there's my unique keys. You gotta hit Save up at the top right, success message down here. Now I can close that editor, and everything is done. We can go through that same process in our code editor on our local machine to edit the WP config file in our local installation. Go ahead and make that edit of your WP config file in both installations. Pause the video now and give it a go. Did you get that done? Great, here's what it looks like. Hit Control-S to save. And to prove that it worked, if I go back to the dashboard, try to refresh the page, oops, because of those secure keys, it's logged me out, and I'm going to have to log back in again. That proves that the secure keys are working. And if you ever have any fear about the security of your site or your dashboard, you can go ahead and change these keys and salts anytime you like, and then you'll be forced to log back in again. The reason we didn't set up the salts and authentication keys inside of our Flywheel sample account is that the managed WordPress hosting at Flywheel manages your WP config file privately. They don't let you access it yourself to make changes because they're editing it for best practices and security within their hosting system. You can request to make changes to it on your behalf if you need a plugin that has some specific requirements in the WP config file. But Flywheel keeps it secure and manages it for you. So if I just click my site right here, I'll show you very quickly the FTP access located at sftp.flywheelsites.com. is right here, and as recommended in the previous chapter, I can open up Firefox and Fire FTP in order to connect via FTP to my files and my WordPress installation at Flywheel. So I'll go up to the top of my list here and click Create an Account. I'll paste that host right in here, and I'm going to use my username and my password. One other thing I have to do inside of this account, if I hit Edit, I forgot under Connection, I have to choose Security SFTP, which is Secure FTP, and hit OK. And now that I have done that, I can click Connect, and it will connect to my website files at Flywheel via my FTP program. Over here on the right hand side, I can use the little arrows to click below. My site is called Flywheel, so if I just click that once, I can see the file structure over here on the right side as it opens up on the server. Now, if I click that WP config file, and I go over here on my computer side, under users, there's my desktop. If I open my brochure site folder, I can bring the WP config file over to there just by highlighting it on the right and clicking that left arrow button. Gives me a message down here that it's placed it up in my computer right there. Great. Now over in Atom, my code editor, I can open a file and navigate to the desktop where I just saved that under brochure site. There's the WP config file there. I'll click open. And here's my WP config file at Flywheel. You can see that there's a warning up here. It says this is automatically generated by Flywheel and you will not be able to edit this file yourself. And if you make an edit of this local version of the file, for instance, to choose new salts and keys and then try to upload it via FTP, it won't actually replace the Flywheel generated WP config file. We'll be setting 4 plugins up in order to give some functionality to this brochure site. And for all of these sites, you can choose to do it in your local development environment or at your SiteGround live server. So under plugins, add new. I'd like you to go in and look for 4 free plugins from the repository. We want to set up a contact form, an email protection, Google Analytics, and Google Maps plugin. Go ahead and search around the plugin repository and see what you can find. Alright, what you may have done is gone into the search window on the top right there, and perhaps you typed contact form. There's a lot of good contact form plugins out there, and it doesn't matter which one you choose, except there is something that we're going to be going over later in the course, which is how to vet and choose from the plugins and themes in the repository to make sure you're getting one that's going to be good into the future and supported by the developers. Now there's so many contact forms here. I know the one that I like is called Contact Form 7. It's probably the most popular and most well-used contact form plugin inside of WordPress. So I'll just click Install Now. It'll give me a message after the plugin's been installed. And I can hit Activate Plugin right from that installation screen if I want to. And just to verify that we know what's going on, under the folders of this brochure site, now if I open WP Content and look under the Plugins folder, there it is. Contact Form 7 has its own folder, and we've downloaded it off the internet out of the WordPress.org plugin repository. So under WordPress.org, under Plugins, here's a very similar screen to what we find inside our WordPress installation. And if I search for that same plugin, it should come right up. If I open the page for that plugin, I can get a lot of information here across these tabs. You can download it directly and then upload it into the plugins directory of your WordPress installation. But all this information here is also available inside of the installed plugins screen, which is right here. And then if you hit view details on any of the plugins, that's going to pull up information directly from the WordPress.org website into your WordPress installation screen so you can see all of the different information that the plugin authors give to you. One of the things I always look for is that I make sure that this plugin has been updated recently. It's compatible with the version of WordPress that I'm using. I always look at how many active installs there are and make sure that that's quite a lot, so that I know that the developers support the plugin that I want to use. Now, when I said an email protection plugin, you might not have known exactly what I meant there, but one of the things that I always do with client sites is to protect their email addresses from being harvested by spam bots across the internet in the case that they actually type their email address into a page or a post or place it on the contact page or in a sidebar widget on their website. There are several different ways to protect email addresses from being harvested by spam bots, but I appreciate this one plugin. Here it is. Email Address Encoder by Till Cruz. It is a lightweight plugin, which means it doesn't take any bandwidth or space at all inside of your website. All it does is it converts the email address when it recognizes it to a hexadecimal so that the bots can't harvest it. So I usually click Install Now and activate the plugin. The email address encoder doesn't take any setup at all. It automatically recognizes email addresses inside of the website and converts them to hexadecimal. Let's take a quick look at how that works. I'm just going to go ahead and put an email address straight into the front page of the website. And though it'll be visible to a member of the public, it won't be harvestable by spam bots. Even if I were to make it a link and have it be clickable, it won't be harvestable. So let's go ahead and update this page. Great, a real email address that's visible on the front page of the website. There it is. Well, let me open my web developer toolbar and then click View Source. And if I scroll down to the source of this page, let's see, I go into the body and I can see the site header, and here's the entry content. The first line, look at all that hexadecimal code. It basically converts every few letters, or many of the letters in the email address, to hexadecimal codes instead of the actual lettering. So it makes it readable by the browser, but not readable by the spam bots. At the same time, if that email address, potentially I want it to be a mail to link, like that, that would make an email address clickable. So let's see, I'll refresh the page. The email address will be a link. That means that it'll open up my email program and send an email to that web address when I click the link. But if we do the same thing, look at the source of that page, even when it's a clickable link, I can see that even inside of the link, it converts it to hexadecimal, and it converts the actual text that the humans can read to hexadecimal as well, so that it's not harvestable by the spam bots. I'm going to go ahead and take that email address out now. Update the page. There's plenty of Google Analytics plugins, and you can actually, depending on the way your theme is set up, place the Google Analytics tracking code directly into each page of the website. But it's easiest to use a plugin in this case. Perhaps you went and found a number of Google Analytics plugins. You'll always want to give your client the opportunity to track the traffic that's coming into their website. Let's take a look. Boy, there's a lot of Google Analytics plugins. One of the best ones is the Google Analyticator by SumoMe. I often use that. SumoMe is often a free service that I use for social sharing and networking, which we'll get into in a later video as well. But you can activate that plugin right away. and then set up the code directly with your client's Google Analytics account. One more to go. Let's search for a Google Maps plugin. Great. First thing I'm looking at is the number of active installs and the number of positive reviews. WP Google Maps, that one looks good. 300,000 active installations. As I scroll down, I don't see anyone quite as popular. Here's a good one. Looks like compatible, updated 4 days ago, 100,000 installs. But boy, this one updated 6 hours ago, 300,000 installs, and compatible with my version of WordPress. That one looks good. Great, I'll activate the plugin. And later in this chapter, we'll configure each one of these 4 plugins and customize it for the brochure site. In this lesson, you used the WordPress encryption keys and salts generator to paste security codes into the WP config file and saw how it logged you out of WordPress. Then you went and found 4 free plugins from the WordPress plugin repository that we'll be using in this brochure site, making sure they look current and supported. Next, we'll customize the home page of the site, choosing the layout. We'll also look at the difference between pages and posts in WordPress and learn when to use each.